African people, Garvey lived.
Video, since I couldn't be here live on Zoom, honoring a transition of a family member. And I've been asked to pour libation, which is quite an honor for me always to do this. And so for any children or young people who may be watching today or in the future who may not know about libation, libation ceremony is a heritage tradition, a ritual that was brought to us from our ancestors from across the water. It is a way that we acknowledge the wisdom, the legacy of our ancestors, and it is also a way that we connect with the divine realm. You can use water to pour into a vessel, or water to pour into a plant, which I'll be doing, or you can pour into the earth. Some people use gin, others may use ghee, but whatever it is, what it represents is the circle, the cycle of life, because this is what nourishes us. Some people say we're 75 to 90% water, and so we give the water back as an offering to those who have done the work. And so I will be pouring libation into this plant here. All right, so I ask that each one of you take a breath and just get comfortable wherever you are. If you want to come down on a knee, you can do that. Or you can just sit comfortably in your chair or on your sofa, but just breathe and relax. I'm going to assume that I've been given permission, so I will just ask if I have permission to pour, and I'll make an assumption that I have an ashe. All right, so the word we will use is ashe, which means, and so it is. All right, so first, we will pour for the great heroes and sheroes of ancestral times. There are too many to name, but we will first pour for them in giving thanks for all the work that they did for our upliftment and liberation. Ashe. Next, we will pour for the great ancestral giants of the UNIA, in particular, the President Generals, beginning with Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, on through to the Honorable Redmond Battle, and Mwalimu G, the last one before Marcus Garvey Jr. in particular, who recently made his transition. We pour for these President Generals who've kept the legacy and the government alive for us today. Ashe. We now pour for your mothers and your fathers, your aunties, your uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your friends, all of those who've moved over that you have loved and who have given you the opportunity to be here in this time and space. And we thank them and acknowledge their contributions. Ashe. And now we will pour for those who are to come, those future students of the course of African philosophy, those future students and participants and members of the UNIA government ACL. We pour for them, knowing that they will be welcome. Ashe. And I will leave this little bit of water here and sit it by the plant. This is our home, the UNIA. And when someone comes into your home, you offer them a drink. So may they be welcome to come into this government and participate with a full heart and an open mind to continue to uplift us, make us better as a people and better as universal members of this planet. Ashe. Thank you for your time.
Marcus Garvey and the whirlwind is here. The Marcus Garvey Honor Society is stirring it up. Sister Ania.
Greetings, all African people. It was in 1937 that the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey assembled an elite group of his followers to share with them his life's lessons. This group consisted of Mr. Garvey's most trusted organizers. For an entire month, this group studied 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Though there was no book, these original students left with notes which compiled 22 lessons covering topics such as universal knowledge and how to attain it, leadership, character, God, and the social system. These lessons were compiled into a book that was edited by the Honorable Tony Martin with a foreword written by the Honorable Charles L. James, one of the original elite members of Mr. Garvey's class. This book is known as The Message to the People, the Course of African Philosophy. Mr. Garvey implored his followers to never stop learning, to educate themselves outside the university with all of the knowledge that a university gives, and in a manner that university students by reading and studying. Thus, it is that all Garveyites are instructed to study and learn of the words and deeds of Mr. Garvey as laid out and described in this book. It is of utmost importance to the UNIA ACL RC 2020 that Garveyites raise their collective consciousness by committing themselves to a study of and examination of the principles and ideas laid out in the book. And over time, individuals in the UNIA ACL RC 2020 have completed this study and have been examined as to their knowledge of the content of the book. So it was on the 27th day of February 2021, the 101st year since the first International Convention of the Negro Peoples of the World, that those in the UNIA ACL RC 2020 who had completed this study participated in the inaugural graduation ceremony. As part of the ceremony, the graduates were also inducted into the newly formed Marcus Garvey Honor Society. This induction imposes on all its members the responsibility to feel and keep alive the Garvey spirit so that we continue to achieve the goals and purposes set forth by Mr. Garvey. Those in the Marcus Garvey Honor Society take a vow to continue to fight to achieve a unified African sovereign under African people for African people. And as stated in that oath, Honor Society members courageously and boldly proclaim, I will bring Garveyite honor to this fight. I will not cease until my eyes die from the light. And even then, I will whirlwind from the night, doing what has to be done because it is right. Today, June 10th, marks the 81st anniversary of the transition of Mr. Garvey. In the African tradition, death is not an end. Ancestors have always played a significant role when they are no longer physically alive. And so we, as members of the Marcus Garvey Honor Society, recognize that Marcus Garvey lives today. In fact, Mr. Garvey told us in death he would be the real Marcus Garvey. He told us that he would come as an earthquake or a cyclone or a plague. So it is that we look at Mr. Garvey as an ancestor today, reviewing his life, his works, and his deeds, so that we remind ourselves of Mr. Garvey's directions and instructions and apply them to our life's works and deeds as we work to walk the walk and talk the talk of Garveyites. We strive and desire to do the work as if Mr. Garvey were here today in body and alongside us as we do his work, our work. During our presentation this evening, we will take a journey with Mr. Garvey and look at where the Garveyites are worldwide. We will discuss the notion of 21st century Garveyism and the state of Pan-Africanism 2021. This will be a review of Garveyism in the African Union. And as important as Black women, Black queens are and were to the works of Mr. Garvey, we will highlight the importance of African women in the struggle while looking at historical women in the growth and maintenance of Garveyism. Today's discussion will point out what elements have sustained and will continue to sustain Garveyism. We'll bring the discussion to a close with looking at a modern restatement of the rights of Negro people and how all of this fits into the future of Garveyism. So welcome to this presentation. We're pleased that you have joined us, and we invite you to connect with the spirit of Marcus Garvey.
Excellent, Ania. Excellent.
I say.
I have decided to follow Garvey. I have decided to follow Garvey. I have decided to follow Garvey. No turning back, no turning back. Our goal is sovereignty for all our people. Our goal is sovereignty for all our people. Our goal is sovereignty for all our people. No turning back, no turning back. Come and go with me towards redemption. Come and go with me towards redemption. Come and go with me towards redemption. No turning back, no turning back. I have decided to follow Garvey. I have decided to follow Garvey. I have decided to follow Garvey. No turning back, no turning back.
By all means, Brother PG, go right ahead.
All right. Where are the Garveyites? You know, as Senghor laid out the thrust and the fundamental pieces of Garveyism being working for the sovereign nation of African people. That's where the Garveyites are. They are the men and women that are working for a sovereign nation of African people on the continent of Africa. There are women and men, they're sisters and brothers that take parts of Garvey's philosophy in order to move forward in this world that we are surrounded by. Are they Garveyites? My answer is going to be, to a point, yes. Are they dedicated Garveyites? No. If we claim all people of African descent, regardless of their location and where they are, as members of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League's Rehabilitating Committee 2020, because they are of African race, then we have to accept some of what they don't know and actions that they take that are incorrect. Don't make them less Garveyites, just made them misled, misinformed, and miseducated Garveyites. Because if you don't take the course of African philosophy and you are in a leadership position anywhere, it's a position that you are then basing your direction on how the world views you. The Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, as Sister Ania pointed out, and bringing together trusted members to move forward. So let me go back. She started in 1937. I want to start in 1914, when he brought those men and women together in order to launch and develop the Universal Negro Improvement Association. And then the landing here in America in 1917, which strengthened his resolve that education was key, but a government for African people was essential. At that time, and David Horn, Professor Horn, correct me, there was only one independent government on the continent of Africa, and that was Ethiopia.
That's correct.
Now we have 55. Garvey didn't live to see one. The first president of an independent country, you notice I didn't say nation, of an independent country on the continent of Africa was Kwame Nkrumah, who studied in America with Thomas W. Harvey to understand the philosophy and the movements and the motivation of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, went to Ghana, led its movement to colonial freedom. And I say that specifically because it wasn't freedom. It was trying to be freedom from the colonial oppressor, but that was the beginning of neo-colonialism, because whites think 100 years, 200 years. And the African has a tendency to think a decade or two. Well, we of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League 2020, we're planning for at least 100 years, if not two. Because we know bringing about the government for African people on the continent of Africa is the essence of what the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey wanted. So where are the Garveyites? Where are the conscious Garveyites? Universal Negro Improvement Association, African Community League, RC 2020. Are there other men and women, women and men, that take pieces of the philosophy of the Honorable Marcus Garvey in order to move forward? My answer to you is yes. But our mission is to bring all of that energy together. See, when Garvey said, look for me in the whirlwind, I could be pestilence. I could be hurricanes. I could be death and destruction. I could be a pandemic. Look for me, because I come back 10 million strong to move my people to the development of a government. We are now stronger today than we were a year ago. We are more committed. And we are more committed because we see the works of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and those men. And I say those men and those women. And I don't ever want to leave sisters out, so don't get it twisted. Without Amy Jacques Garvey, we would not have had a book on Marcus Garvey. Not a book. Without Mr. Harvey, Mr. James, Mr. Stewart, Sister Sadie, Sister Isaac, we would not have had the opportunities that are in front of us. You say, how did they laid the foundation for where we are today. Mistakes that were made, mistakes lead to correction. Where are the Garveyites is the question. And so my answer is they are here. And there are men and women who take pieces of Garveyism. But since Garvey claimed all of the Negro race, all of African descent, all of this bloodline, I claim them all. We are here. We are working. We are building. And our mission is to build that government for African people on the democratic process that African people developed through our history. I'm not trying to do white man's democracy, because that, I caught myself, don't work. I want to build based on the African philosophy, because that works. That's what Caucasians were afraid of historically. That's what they are afraid of currently. Us in leadership of our own nation, changing the entire world. The world, not changing a continent, because if we build that government on the continent of Africa, we're going to change China. We're going to change Europe. We're going to change America, which is changing herself, but we're going to change her too. You say, how, Bob? How could you even think that? Because when you show the world the proper means of executing democracy, this world will follow you. Where the Garveyites are, UNIA ACLRC 2020, but we know they're spread throughout the world. We know they're with other organizations. We know they're with other governments. We know they're with other nations. We know that they are still searching for a way home. We're going to give them that way. I now yield the floor to Professor David Horn. My brother.
Thank you, PG. Where are the Garveyites? There are over 350 million African people who live outside of the continent. There are, of course, 1.5 billion Africans who live on the continent. It is the job, it is the obligation, it is the function of Garveyism and Garveyites to unite those populations. Africans who live outside the continent and Africans who live on the continent. African sovereignty, African land for African people. That is what Garveyites are about. That's what Garveyism is about. Where are the Garveyites? Well, there are those who claim to be Garveyites who believe that African people have a right and an obligation to reconnect, that African people are African whether they were born on the continent or not. As Kwame Nkrumah said, I'm not African because I was born in Africa. I'm African because Africa was born in me. There are those who believe that Africans will collect together and become citizens of the world. Those are Pan-Africanists by philosophy. There are those who believe in the ideology of Marcus Garvey, that we must bring to the world African independence and sovereignty that will teach the world how African people, the real people, the beginning people on this planet, how we can lead the world forward. There are those who believe that it is logical, it is inevitable that Africa will take its rightful place. But being a person who believes in the ideology of Pan-Africanism does not make one a Garveyite. Believing that African people, wherever they are in the world, need to be reconnected to African people who are on the continent now. May be and is a part of Pan-Africanism, but that does not make one a Garveyite. What makes you a Garveyite and what makes you a real Pan-Africanist is whether you are doing something. What are you doing to make Africa sovereign? What are you doing to get African people where they belong in this world? If you are only working on making life better for Black people wherever they are, if you're only working to get the Biden administration or any other administration to pass legislation to protect our voting rights, to pass legislation to get better schooling, if you are only directing your activities to teaching critical race theory, that there is no biological race, that is a socially constructed concept. If you are spending your time only making life better for the African people that you know of in your vicinity, thank you. And we are glad that we are working together, but that does not make you a Garveyite. That makes you a social activist. That makes you a person that African people can be proud of. If you are a Garveyite, if you are a real Pan-Africanist, you must be working in some capacity to bring forth sovereign African independence. That may mean you are working to get rid of some of these leaders in Africa who don't seem to get it. That may mean you are working in some capacity in any state, Maryland, Kentucky, Arkansas, etc. You're working in any capacity to get young people trained to be able to go to the continent, to build, to drill wells, to help bring the technological revolution to the continent. If your activity is toward African sovereignty, then you are a Garveyite and you are a Pan-Africanist. Otherwise, you are somebody who is interested in Pan-Africanism. You are somebody who is interested in Garveyism, what he did in history, what the Garveyites are doing now. In order to be a Garveyite, in order to be a real Pan-Africanist, your calling card must be work, Kazi, and more Kazi. So where are the Pan-Africanists? They're busy working. They're busy making the Pan-African dream, the Pan-African idea, the Pan-African cosmology of Marcus Garvey come into reality. Those of you who picked up would have wanted to question the PG when he said, well, only Ethiopia was independent. Actually, he was correct. Liberia was independent on paper since 1847, but it was still essentially colonized, even though America would not declare itself the colonial ruler of Liberia. It was. And we understood that when Marcus Garvey tried to buy a large piece of property in Liberia onto which he could take a large number of those in the diaspora to Liberia. The American government stopped that. The American government and industry stopped it. Unfortunately, some Negroes were involved in that that particular action to stop Garvey from going to Liberia. Where are the Garveyites? They are those working in cities, counties, and states, in countries, in organizations that are trying to repatriate, trying to get back to Liberia, Sierra Leone, to Ghana, to an African area so you can help build, you can help bring African sovereignty into fruition. So where are the Garveyites? Look around you. You see African people working for African people. That's where they are.
So PG and international organizer, I'm gonna segue and let Zama pull up some pictures in a second, but before we move forward, we're moving good, but we're gonna show some pictures and give the PG opportunity and give you Dr. Horn, because you are gonna make presentations in 3 and 4. But let me say this, today is June the 10th, 81 years since Garvey elevated Charles L. James, Sarah Isaac, Teresa Young, Ethel Watto, Eleanor White, James Stewart, Nathaniel Grinsom, and Thomas W. Harvey, who took the first course, and also William Sherrill, Alma Golden, Sadie Madison, Tony Martin, Redmond Battle, Reginald Maddox, Farouk Muhammad. Zama, you can start getting ready to pull the pictures up too. Hassim Nkrumah, Nyata Toure, Marcus Garvey Jr., Edward Robinson, Calvin Robinson, Mae Ferguson, Kamal Robinson, Ruth Smith, Henrietta Vinton Davis, to name a few who are in the whirlwind with Garvey.
That's right. That's correct.
And PG made it very clear. He said he's going to return. He didn't say by himself.
Right. He said 10 million strong.
Yeah. And I just named some people who actually followed in his works. So Zama, if you could pull the pictures up, Z. We want to take a breather here, and then we're gonna come right back to the presentation. So Z, are you able to pull the pictures up? Zama? Anyway, we're gonna have to move on. I don't know what, he's not responding, so I don't know whether he's at his desk.
He's looking out the window for the whirlwind.
I don't know where he's at, but
the whirlwind now is right in the room. Go ahead, Sinjo. Keep on.
Go ahead with Baba Akili. We're going to have to go ahead to Baba Akili. If you would go ahead on, Baba Akili, with this presentation in terms of Garveyism 2021, 21st century. And then after that, we'll go to Dr. Horn. But we're going to have to take a break somewhere in here and share some of these visuals. And in the meantime, I can look for Zama.
Okay. Dr. David Horn laid the foundation for this move. There's the pictures. He laid the foundation in discussing Garveyism 2021, this century. The Universal Negro Improvement Association African Community Rehabilitated Committee 2020 is committed. It's committed to bringing about actual impact and results, because we have achieved a level of intelligence that, bar none, if we use it to move our race forward, which change the dynamics of the world that we're in today. Now, I hope I'm still on topic, but I've been known to veer off.
You're on topic, brother. You're on topic.
Thank you. But I just wanted to say that and say, fine, say, but you see, in the world today, there are a number of entities claiming to be committed to Garveyism. And you say, Baba Akili, why you say claiming? Because what I want everyone and anyone to do is measure the work. The same about personality, it's measuring the work. You see, when the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey was incarcerated in the 20s, the UNIA was alive. It had internal conflicts. UNIA Inc. was alive. There was conflict. He was released from prison, went deported. He recaptured the UNIA ACL and recaptured that essence that he had started here in 1917 that caught fire in 18 and 19. We have chosen the same path that the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey chose, which was, when you see the entity, which is the UNIA ACL, in trouble, and you aren't able to save her from herself or save him from himself, you don't let the idea or the institution fade with time. You rebuild that institution to stand the test of time. That's what the Marcus Messiah Garvey did. See, so as we moving forward, and again, I want to make sure I'm staying on topic, we have to recognize the work that's being done by all people who claim the title, and recognize that all men and women who claim Pan-Africanism or universal African nationalism, all men and women, I thought I said that, all women and men, are not necessarily focused on the whirlwind and focus on the development and creating the democratic government for African people on the continent of Africa. It cannot be created anywhere else. There's only one place to house that. Why did he want to go to Liberia? Because he believed he would stay on the continent and that would give him a foothold in trying to change the entire continent. Why was he blocked? Because white people knew he could do it and they were scared to death. This is an accidental challenge. This has been those Negroes who always saw opportunities and figure they take the opportunity, figure they skullduggle, and I know that's not the proper terminology, put the wool over people's eyes and they fool them. And we've seen that in 2020, 2021. We've seen that. Well, I watched America with the elections of 2020. And you say, what the hell is Bob Akili getting ready to do? Just follow me for a minute. I watched that. And I knew at the end of the day that white America was going to do everything she could to keep people of African descent and people young enough of a different mindset from voting. The day after January 6th, what do they call it? The insurrection. The insurrection. The white governors of Republican states started changing election laws. They didn't have that many changes in election laws during Jim Crow. Not whoo, if you can get locked up for helping somebody have the right to vote. You say, what does that have to do with now? It speaks to the mindset of the enemy in whose house you reside. And it also speaks to what we have to accomplish, which is why the democratic government for African people on the continent of Africa is essential. And we must make it happen. There are millions of young people that are looking for direction. We must provide it. There are millions of young people with skills. We must provide them the opportunity to use their skills to move the race. But first, we must teach them the lesson of Garvey when it comes to personalities and when it comes to universal law. It's in the course of African philosophy. All students have had it. If you haven't had the course of African philosophy, you need to talk to Brother David Horn and try to see if you can get into a class so that we can bring you forward with your skills and with your knowledge. Listen, I push nothing to the side, which is why I always say make sure I'm staying on point. But at the same, what I want us to understand going forward is that in order to be prepared for the next 100 years, you have to prepare the day. We are already running late. David Horn.
Within the last few days, a number of you have heard about the 1921 Tulsa massacre. Some of you for the first time, some of you for many times over. Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association were alive and well during that time period. They had already had the Springfield racial riots, in which whites went into neighborhoods in New York, neighborhoods in New Jersey, neighborhoods in other cities, but particularly New York. And anybody black that they saw, they either beat them severely and left them on the sidewalk to bleed, or they killed them. All you had to do was to simply be black. Carter G. Woodson, the great Black academician, said that he was on the way to a meeting and he saw them, a group of whites, snatch an older Black man and beat him damn near to death. Dr. Woodson said his response was to turn the other way and walk very quickly so that the fire of that white crowd was not turned on him. Marcus Garvey, the Marcus Garvey government and organization was around when whites tried to re-enslave Black folk. There were over 155 Black townships started in this country in the aftermath of Reconstruction. Virtually every single one of them that started to gain economic success, whites did the same thing that they did in Tulsa, only they didn't have planes to come in and bomb the places. But they killed Black people, they burned the towns down, they poisoned the wells, they killed the animals, they did whatever they felt like doing to reduce Black people back to peonage and possibly slavery. And again, this is when sending Black people to prison on a regular basis to reduce them to believing they had to let themselves be led by whites in order to live well. Marcus Garvey, UNIA, was around when there were things going on that were not in the best interest of Black folk. Yes, the Garveyites tried to help. Marcus Garvey sent over 120 Black Cross nurses to Tulsa to help them handle the carnage that came from that white attack. Garveyites helped in other situations, but Marcus Garvey kept emphasizing in his meetings, kept emphasizing in his organizing, this is not our ultimate goal.
Yes.
We want to protect Black people as much as we can, but we are not going to stay here. This is not our home. We need to be where we can be in charge of our own land. Garveyism is part of that and has always been a part of that. Now, starting in 2002, there's an organization called the African Union. Some Garveyites and some would-be Garveyites have attacked the African Union as being inimical to the achievement of African independence and sovereignty. They say it's basically just a Negro organization. It is a continuation of the organization of African Union, African unity. And they don't think the African Union is worth a whole lot. Garveyites cannot make that mistake.
True that.
Garveyites understand that any cogent activity that helps Africa get to the position of being able to be sovereign and independent, being able to protect itself, any organizational activity that's helping to get to that point is worth supporting and being part of. There are
Ashe.
many things wrong with the African Union, but there are many things that are right with the African Union. For example, the All African Continental Trade Agreement,
Yes.
which has become such a big issue in the last couple of years in Africa, is something that the white colonial governments, white colonial educators have always taught could never happen. Black people cannot, African people that we have taught, that we have trained, no, you can never unite. You can never organize yourselves to say that your resources, your gold, your copper, all of those resources that we have to have for our modern machines. You cannot organize yourself to say that you will trade all of those goods with each other before you trade them with us. You cannot do that. You cannot unite. Africans cannot unite with other Africans in order to pull off that economic miracle. Hell no, that's not possible. Well, the African Union just at least got the full agreement, the contract signed. They still have to work out the details about making that work, making that operational, but they have made the agreement. They have gone far beyond what the colonial masters have said. That is a Pan-African result.
Yes, sir.
African Union has moved in that direction. Clearly, there are things that need to be corrected with the African Union. But the African Union recognizes Marcus Garvey. The African Union, in most of its meetings, will comment about the importance of Marcus Garvey's Pan-Africanism in the history of getting to the African Union. We are about the business in UNIA ACL 2020, RC 2020. We are about the business of making sure that we get a statue of Marcus Garvey alongside that of Kwame Nkrumah and Haile Selassie at the African Union. We are about the business of working with the African Union as much as we can, as long as the activity is about achieving Pan-African sovereignty, including bringing the African diaspora into the mix. We need to be there when decisions are being made about us. The issue of Pan-Africanism and the African Union. If you understand what real Pan-Africanism is, you understand what Garveyism is, was, and will continue to be, the African Union cannot be written off.
Ashe.
The African Union cannot be ignored. It has to be contested with inside. We got to be in the rooms. We got to make them understand our voices count. But Pan-Africanism, Garveyite Pan-Africanism, and what the African Union intends to do, they are joined. They are not in opposition. That is not to say the African Union has gotten to where it needs to get, but we are saying it is on the way, and Garveyites have to aid in that movement forward. Pan-Africanism, the African Union, and any other international organization out there that is about the business of getting us to direct African sovereignty. And sovereignty does not just mean having land that you can claim.
No.
There are 55 African countries
Yes.
that can claim land. One of the things that is problematic in 2021 is that Africa cannot protect the land that it claims.
Yes, sir.
There is not one African country, even South Africa or Nigeria, that can protect itself against an attack by France, by Great Britain, and by the United States. And the United States is all over Africa. We got too many, if not full bases, we got little settlement bases. We got outposts.
Right.
The United States is all over the continent, and it should not be. What we are saying is that if you cannot protect the land that you claim to be your own, then you don't have sovereignty. If you don't have sovereignty, then you don't have independence.
Yes.
Africa is not yet the independent entity that it will become.
Yes.
We have not yet done all that we can to help Africa achieve that. That is what our Pan-Africanism is about. That is what our connection to the African Union is about. We must study and interact, brothers and sisters, about issues like this. We cannot just simply let people make pronouncements and make statements that are incorrect, and we don't wrestle with them. We don't bring to the table accurate information. Pan-Africanism is too difficult to achieve by simply allowing things to lay on the table. We have to combat nonsense. We have to combat those who claim Pan-African credentials and they really don't have them. Again, here's the question. For those who say they are Pan-Africanists, what are you doing? Identify the activities that you're involved in that are Pan-African in nature. Don't tell me how many books you've read. Don't start quoting famous folk. Don't start telling me the classes that you've taken in college. What are you doing? A real Pan-Africanist can answer that question. And a fake Pan-Africanist will simply show who he or she is as they fumble to try to answer that question.
Ashe.
I'm through.
And no, not through, but if I can take that one step further. You see, the fear that you have is the falsehoods. And when you continuously accept falsehoods as truths, you are lost in your way.
Yeah.
A true Pan-Africanist won't be lost in her or his way. A true Garveyite will not be lost in her or his way.
As taught in the School of African
of course,
Philosophy.
that's right. Now, as taught and as profound as it may be. No, as profound as it is. I got you, Singo. Give me a minute. As profound as it is, what is so real is the elevation of the work that has to be done. Elevated so that the youth who look for answers find answers with us.
Right.
Find the answers with us.
Right.
We have to show the way, not talk it.
Okay, Zama. No, we want to just take a little breather. We want to come back to the conversation, but we done laid a lot on people to think about. We want to give people something to see. So if you would, Zama.
Are you going to narrate?
I'm going to do a little bit. Some
Okay.
folks, their brother Jackson Bay, Queen Mother Moore. This quite a few people, Joe Mazik, because they're going to be moving fast, David. So I'm going to do the best I can. Jackson Bay, quite a few others. So we just wanted people to see some of the Garveyites throughout history. Of course, Marcus Garvey Jr. in the middle. There was a high chancellor on the end. Brother Yao Davis, Kwame Ture. There's Jackson Bay with Marcus Garvey. There's Kwame Ture again. And it's keeping with what you were saying, David. The pictures tell 1,000 words.
Yep.
And what you were saying, PG, Tony Martin, powerful brother there that me and Zama knew that was this powerful Garveyite. Dr. Tony Martin, Brother Farouk Muhammad, Chris Crowder, Marilyn Killingham, all ancestors. Mamadi Nasuma, ancestor, down in the corner, sister out of Philadelphia, one of our ambassadors, Fulani, Dr. John Henry Clark, Francis Cress Welsing. All of these brothers and sisters being shown, Baba Akili and me standing beside Malcolm X, and then there's John Jackson, Okombo, and Patrice Lumumba. Don't they look alike? And then
Yes, they do.
And Mama Nia, and down in the bottom Akila, and there's Garvey again, and there's Farouk, and quite a few others that are with him. Try to name as many as I can. Go ahead, Tony Martin, Brother Battle, Sister Jean Slappy, Nia Kuumba, Kwame Ture again, John Henry Clark, Doc Ben, Mama Nia again, Kwame Ture again. Oh, good gracious, Alma Golden with Queen Mother Moore, Kalanji Alushagoon, Brother Maddox, and quite a few others. Brother Maddox again, President General Maddox, Chukwe Lumumba, Arthur Thomas out of Detroit, Doc Ben again, Mama James, Kalanji Alushagoon, Mario Badelli, Marcus Garvey Jr., Gene Slappy, Hannibal Afrique, Ron Walters, and moving fast. That's Kwame Ture, Kwame Fo up in the corner. Oh, Queen Mother of the Reparations Movement. And what? Hey, Zama. Shocked me there, but that's cool. Oh, great. Oh my goodness, y'all know who that is, right? Thomas Sankara.
Thomas Sankara.
Yeah, Peter Taj. Jefferson Karoji and Baba Mosi are still with us. And oh my gosh, Sabukwe. Oh man, that was the president of Belize at one time, and that was great, Zama. And what we wanted to do, y'all, is just show some of the historical ancestors in the whirlwind, and some that were still living, and you saw that. And we'll come back to photos later. But what we want to do right now is keep the movement going. And Brother David, our international organizer and the President General, and myself and Nia have laid down some things, but we want to go to the next stage. The next one, I believe, someone correct me if I'm not right, is the historical women in the growth and maintenance of Garveyism. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me say two quick things just before we get there.
Sure.
None of the people that you showed images of left this world quietly.
Teach, brother.
They all went out fighting, struggling. They went out knowing that they had left a legacy of struggle, of agitation toward restoring African sovereignty. That is crucial to know. When our time comes, do we have that trail of work that we can look back and say, we did what we were supposed to do well while we were here? The second point, when PG was talking about the 10-year expanse of UNIA beginning in New York and the expulsion in 1927, two of the most important people who helped to save Garveyism in this part of the world, two of the people without whose work Garveyism would have died. Henrietta Vinton Davis and Mrs. Marcus Garvey, Amy Shot Garvey.
Yes.
Those two women were the pillars around which the salvation of Garveyism within the United States was able to be achieved so that when he got out, Marcus Garvey could then rebuild, reconstruct his organization.
Yeah, and I just
I need to say that before.
no, I appreciate it, and I want
Dr. Chin.
I want to bring Dr. Chin on, but also Lady Demina, who was the assistant to Henrietta Vinton Davis. She was a hard hitter too. So you're right; it was a whole network of sisters, and we know that without the rise of the goddess energy, there's going to be no complete revolution. We all came through the womb, and it's very important for our African women to be lock, stock, and barrel right alongside us. So if Dr. Chenzara, if you are ready, our High Commissioner General of the West Indies, of the Caribbean, and Central America, if she's ready, we're going to let her share some reasonings and word of power with everybody, and then we're going to move on to the Secretary General. So without any further ado,
Baba Senghor, when she's done, I'd like to make a comment.
Oh yeah, no, what you
Actually, if you'd like to make your comment,
I want to wait till you're done.
All right. All
Wait till
right.
you're done.
Give thanks. Give thanks.
All right.
Give thanks. I first and foremost want to ask that we just take a moment of reflection for all of these powerful Garveyites who are in the whirlwind and are giving us guidance, strength, power to even invoke sovereignty in the spiritual realm, in the physical realm, and the economical realm, in the political realm, in the sociological realm, in the intellectual realm, all those realms, because that is going to shift how we move forward from this particular June 10th in the year 2021. Ashe?
Ashe.
Part of my presentation is more visual than just speaking, because whenever we reference the Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League, RC 2020, yes, from its foundational space back in the early parts of the 20th century, every single brother's name that was uttered had a sister, a queen, an auntie, a niece, a daughter, a grandmother, etc., in their spirit.
Yes.
So whenever we're saying these brothers' names that we can say with fluidity, it's very important that we start to get that same fluidity and that flexibility in how we utter the women's names as well.
Ashe. Ashe.
Thanks. There are several publications that have, and when I say publications, yes, some of them are academic. However, most of them are very intellectual. And I'm very grateful for a quote that was shared with me by a brother that most of us know, Baba Obi Egbuna, for reminding many of us, sistren, that academics is one space, but being intellectual is very different, and it moves in the direction of activism, proactivity, and revolution. There was a piece entitled Black Nationalist Women Activism in the 1920s in Harlem, and I'm very thankful to Professor Keisha and Blaine for taking so much thought, time to really explicate what was taking place in the early parts of the 20th century around the historical context of women and their involvement, our involvement in the Universal Negro Improvement Association's African Communities League from its very beginnings. And
very good piece.
And I definitely would be remiss if I did not highlight some of the significant quotations in her work. It's also important, and I shared that there's a publication called Set the World on Fire. I love that title. Set the World on Fire, Black Nationalist Women and the Global Struggle for Freedom, which she authored. And in that publication, she has a very significant component that, with very good references, drawing on all of these powerful women who served as the foundational cornerstone of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, African Communities League. So it's really important. When persons speak of the Harlem Renaissance, there would not have been a Harlem Renaissance. There wouldn't have been a Renaissance had there not been this justice, forward thinking, engagement, and activism from sisters as well as brothers inside of the UNIA ACL. I'm going to ask whoever may, thank you. I'm going to highlight a couple of things that were shared by a sister whose name sometimes gets lost in the fray, Eunice Lewis. And I quote, she called for revolutionizing the old type of male leadership. Again, in the 1920s, this sister was saying this. So when I hear of the UNIA ACL RC 2020's movement in this 21st century, we're grounding this on a space that includes, yes, the honorable, prolific, engaging activism and work and power beyond measure of Marcus Messiah Garvey. And we have to put that in Ma'at, in truth, justice, order, reciprocity, balance, divine righteousness, and harmony, alongside his first wife, Amy Ashwood Garvey. May her name be remembered and honored for generations, as well as his second wife, Amy Ashwood, Amy Jacks Garvey. May her name be respected and honored for generations. And I say that because if you do not look at the work that has been produced, the movement of gathering millions upon millions of persons to come together in an accord without the internet, without Twitter, with no Facebook, no social media, anything, then we would overlook what was happening from mouth to ear, as well as from ear to mouth. What was happening in all of those transshipment activities, what persons were putting inside of newspapers and carrying the message, what persons had in terms of code with different telegraphic communication, and what persons actually walked on foot or horse, you know what I mean, donkey, bicycle, etc., to get that message across of one God, one aim, one destiny, and putting the race first. It's also equitably important that we start to look at some of the women like Henrietta Benton Davis, who utilized her exceptional, I'm going to use this word very cautiously, because some persons think of her as just a powerful orator or an exceptional lecturer or an exceptional speaker. She was an elocutionist. So I want to be real clear. She was able to utilize her gifts, talents, and expertise as a very eloquent, very proficient speaker and actress of many, many talents.
Ashe.
So that she was able to not only generate the resources to support the organization, the government, but also to keep that energy moving, the
That's right.
like
Ashe.
measure.
Ashe.
We also would have to look at, again, it was not only English in which these engagements happened. Persons were speaking a multiplicity of languages around
Ashe.
the globe. And so
Mhm.
you have women like Maimi Demena, who was a translator. And persons, and granted, whether persons were from the South, coming out of Louisiana, having connections to Nicaragua. Who would people think would have connections between Louisiana and Nicaragua? It's like French, Spanish. What were you saying? And this day, that's the intentional thrive, thrust, flow pathway of how women have always stayed central inside of the Garvey movement from its
Right.
inception all the way into the present. So, regardless of any ongoing assessment or analysis of the patriarchal leadership, again, knowing the times, how things were run in the 20th century, it may look like and it may have been what persons define as a patriarchal leadership. However, at the very core, in regard to who was providing those secretariat, not secretarial, I want to try to make that distinction, but that's secretariat, governance, organization, disciplined engagement, managing the accounts and affairs, that was being
Right.
done by who usually does that? The
Right.
queens, the mothers, the keepers of the house, yes? So I also would be remiss if I did not highlight that in some of this research, it shares some of the three directors that were listed in the certificate of incorporation in the early 20th century. Again, when the UNIA ACL was relocated in Harlem, of six, three were sisters. And I'd like
Mhm.
to just share their names and ask that we just hold them up. Carrie B. Merrill, who was an activist coming out of Massachusetts and doing work, of course, throughout the entire New England area, and Harriet Rogers and Irene M. Blackstone. Again, these are women that many times when we're speaking, we just they kind of get superfluously like just they just dissipate in the history. And we're taking time so that we can begin to call on their names, share what they have contributed, identify that there were of course, the Black Cross nurses. Of course, there were UNIA ladies divisions. Of course, there were various study groups and circles. Of course, there were different circles and alliances connected to the UNIA ACL that focused on the youth so that
Mhm.
youth would be empowered. And by the time these youth grew and were molded and groomed, I want to use that term, and were groomed to be able to serve in leadership positions, it was through these efforts that were also highlighted by many of these sisters that were centripetal to the efforts, the work of the historical engagement of the UNIA ACL. They speak of Ethel Maud Collins. And again, the many persons, whether they were from New York, Louisiana, Illinois, like Chicago, Cleveland, etc., the Jamaica, and different parts of the entire African world, the whole circumstance that surrounds their engagement around these different Garvey clubs that started to come forward has been a very key effort of how, in the terms that are used herein, the great work of the Negro women today. And we need to reflect
Right.
on that our sisters, our queen mothers, those ancestresses that were central to the work that was prepared, organized, institutionalized, so that we are still speaking and still holding in high esteem the work of the UNIA ACL into the 21st century and beyond. There was also a very important series of engagements that were linked to the Black Star Line, militaristic training, and persons always felt that, okay, well, it was only the Black Cross nurses. No, you had sisters that were trained in areas of executive security. You had sisters that were trained, of course, in different skills surrounding nutrition, caring for our institutions, running businesses, entrepreneurship. And this is layered into the same theme of what took place and what was being developed in those spaces called Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street
Yeah.
was not only men, and Black
Right.
Wall Street were sisters alongside brothers, brothers
Right.
alongside sisters that were doing what? Implementing sovereignty, even in the midst of Jim Crow, even
Right.
in the midst of lynching as a tradition that was legitimized and seen as legal, although
Yeah.
we all know it was unethical, unlawful, and outright acts of terrorism. And
Right.
so, with that being said, I would use the balance of my time, because I don't really know how much time I have.
You have whatever you need.
Well, I appreciate that, but I, under normal circumstances, would have asked, because the whole intention of speaking around this particular theme of historical women in the growth and maintenance of the Garvey movement was really so that we were able to tie it into all these other themes that we've shared tonight, so that we can see our sistren when they were, and again, this is coming from the 1920s, definitely fit, sharp, prepared to defend, in addition to other efforts. You know, here we're seeing the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey alongside these powerhouses that we've just mentioned. You know, so when we're
Right.
speaking of Amy Jacks Garvey, when we're speaking of Henrietta Vinton Davis, when we're speaking of Amaimi Mena and others, we get to see them. Again, this is a group out of Canada. And persons just kind of overlook these things. And when we say Canada, we need to be very specific in regards to what was going on and continues to go on in spaces like Nova Scotia, etc. Right? And of course, the work of Garvey has always been linked to the partnerships, the collaborations with the women in his life and those women that were
Right.
pivotal to his work, inclusive of this important portion of why we must study the material. If you are moving
Right.
as a Garveyite, then the course of African philosophy should be your preliminary engagement. You would not take on a job and not read the manual, would you? Okay. And with that being said, again, we see our sistren moving again with that type of energy, this type of effort. Granted, this is 1920 in Harlem. We get a chance to see, again, powerful sistren. And I love this picture because the star is right over her crown in the midst of some of the powerhouses linked to the UNIA ACL in its formative stages. And again, we
Dr.
get this, yeah,
Dr. Chen,
yes,
Dr. Chen, could you put in the chat the the name of Dr. Blaine, you know, the citation,
of course,
so that
of course,
some people can see
of
an
course,
article that they can read.
of course, I can do that. Not at this second, but as soon as I come out of this shared screen, I can multitask,
Okay.
multitask.
Okay.
Multitask.
You know, but
So
I
let
just
me.
desired for us to just see some of these pieces and to reflect on those words, those powerful words that have been shared and that are part of coming from the Honorable Amy Jacks Garvey. A nation without great women is a nation frolicking in peril. Let us go forward and lift degradations which rest on the Negro woman, God's most glorious gift of all. I think it's important that sometimes, because sometimes people don't necessarily have sisters in that kind of high esteem. So I'm very grateful that in the UNIA ACL RC 2020, African women lead, and it's not it's not with resistance. It's that we get
Right.
to bring forth and do that work. I just love this posture though of Her Excellency Amy Jacks Garvey watching this bust, like, okay, I approve. I mean, we need we
Yeah.
need to see that.
Yeah.
We need to really see that, and just other manifestations of her and
And
the depth of the work that she has brought forward. So we're seeing her from again, and remember, I just finished talking about donkeys. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
And and
but
and we
but
need and we need to remember that there are 3 volumes of the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, not
Correct.
just 2.
Correct.
absolutely. And if I may, to my sister Queen's point, we rarely talk about sisters. Mrs. Bulliard, Jessie Bulliard, reporter, Gary Division, 1929, 1931.
Give thanks.
Sisters. You know, because we don't do that. Lady President, MP Calendar, Taggart Division, 1931. Mm.
Wow.
Gwen Campbell, Board of Management, 1915. That's taking us back.
Mhm.
So that you understand that they sisters did not just like enter in at a time, they were a part of the movement all along.
Right.
Yeah.
You see, we have names, and I have like a whole list, but I'm not going to do that. But what my sister's point is, and Queen, please, I apologize for interrupting
No
you,
apology. It's not an interruption.
is
It's called
is that in RC 2020, and I'm going to us, what I recognize and what this body recognize is that African women lead. You notice I didn't say African women. It doesn't matter about the titles. Amy Jacques Garvey did not follow. She led a fight to secure the UNIA at the transition of Marcus Garvey. But she also led the fight while Marcus Messiah Garvey was incarcerated. Let us not forget that African women weren't only Black Cross nurses. That's what that second picture on the screen shows, is African women as a part of the African Legion.
Mhm. Correct.
We are stronger with our women beside us, leading us, than standing behind us, fighting us for a particular position. The European, our enslavers, did a hell of a job of separating us. Garveyism did one hell of a job unifying us and taking away those things of separation. So for the modern times,
Correct.
you say you got Amy Jacques Garvey, you have our former Secretary General, I know Mary would talk about her when she comes on, Miss Alma Golden, who was a Garveyite from the time of 9. We have Sadie Madison, sisters that who were quietly making sure that we followed the directions of the men that they stood to support. There is no household in our world where the household is held together and there is no sister that's the glue. Back to you, my sister Queen.
Give thanks. So I just desired for, and Asante for just putting it in context, because sometimes when we're doing this type of work, we do not get an opportunity to highlight like what these sisters even looked like. So it's good for us to, and I'm going to step back for a second because people forget women like Sister Queen Blackstone.
Yes.
Just check out, I'm just saying, just check out that posture.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And her spectacles are on point. I'm just saying. Right? And Sister Mena, again, a translator, in addition to being, and many persons forget sometimes, and I pulled this from part of the collection from the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and their hidden her story piece, because many persons, we know of Queen Mother Moore in her elder years, right? But from her younger years, she was already on point and was a member of the UNIA,
Yes,
like
sir.
back
Yes,
in
ma'am.
the day. And that,
Carried 2 pistols with her.
hey, there we go. But that smile just looked like that. Just looked like Queen Mother Moore. She's not gonna do you
Yeah, she
right.
carried a 45 and a 38. And he said, ask me how I know. I sat with her and she said, I ain't traveled nowhere without my 45. And just as backup, because you might see that one, I had a 38. I don't know where she put it. I just know she had easy access to it.
I'm just saying, and I think it's important when we speak of how the UNIA historically developed and moving into the Black nationalist movement, moving into the Pan-African Pan-African movements in the latter part of the 20th century and how that shifted, and really how there's a common thread, because sistren are to be central in that whole discourse. And again, we see that our sisters are still involved, still engaged in these decision-making processes when they're involved in these. And I encourage persons to look up in the upper left-hand corner so we know which part we did, right? People forget what was going on and continues to manifest in places like Central America and Panama, right? And we, again, and like going, because this was global. So again, another opportunity to see the magnitude. Now, mind you, this is something that we are working to be able to do now in the 21st century, to have our brothers and sisters gather on these progressive efforts to uplift the race and to bring that forward. So I close with that the intention has always been to share a vision, a voice of how the historical women in the growth and the maintenance, that part, maintenance is the part I'd like to highlight of Garveyism, is really central. So we have sisters right on this call, right, listening to this particular convening, that are doing the work, that are engaged in very proactive, uplifting, African fundamentalist work, that are doing it on a 24/7, 365 plus level. And we need to make sure that we always include their names, call in their spirits, those from the ancestral realms, as well as those that are still here amongst us. And I take a second, because I have to reach out to the sacred queen mother warriors that are right in here right now, part of the parent body, part of the leadership of the UNIA ACL. So I call them Sister Queen Grandmother Mary Bota Ashe, because she's right here and she's doing it right now as Secretary General. I speak of Sister Queen Mother Inia, because she's doing it right now, providing that chief legal counsel engagement, like right here, right now. I speak of our beloved Sister Queen, Kathy Holt, because she's doing that work and bringing that work and that effort right now. I speak of Sister Queen, Mother Sarah, because she's doing this as a chancellor and taking this work to another level of engagement. And I know I'm going to keep adding more names and adding more names. Sister Queen Margot, for being able to bring this energy up. And we send that vibration, that upliftment for Sister Queen Brenda. Again, that whole team that works with the Office of the Secretary General to, again, remember I said earlier, not just secretary per se, because the secretariat is what we need to understand, that this is a whole institutionalized, organized, disciplined focus that has numbers connected to it. Because you see where I'm going with our illustrious brother Heru Oforiata. If you don't have numbers, you're just talking, right? So we know that we're speaking in a form that has numerical computations that have to be included in how we measure, how we process, how we deal with things principally, and how we increase the various efforts and works that we're doing as well. I speak of Sister Queen Mansahe because when I hear of what she's doing alongside Chief Fode in Sierra Leone, I definitely am in that vibration. Let's hold one another up. And all the sisters that are still making the charge to keeping our efforts, our work moving forward. You know, and I give thanks to my own biological and my spiritual mothers for giving me guidance to be able to do this work and know that this is the charge and the responsibility, so that 100 years from now, our great grandchildren will be able to take the mantle and carry the torch and move it even forward into African sovereignty in their contemporary time. Ashe Zuawa.
I say in 100 years from now, 100 years from now,
Africa will
be
be
free
sovereign.
and be sovereign. 100 years from now, the discussion won't be how to get there. We will already have been there, and have a different discussion. That's because we are committed to building a democratic government for African people. Let me, if I may, Sante Sana, my sister queen, I know that's not my role, but you know, I'm
You the
utilizing
PG.
privilege
Like you be saying what your
of the
role is and what
PG.
your role's not, but you the PG. We good?
See, but, but I want to make sure, see, clearly as we focus, the mission of 100 years from now is so that our youth aren't wrestling with this problem.
Yeah.
See, they can't wrestle with, we wrestling with the problem that our ancestors should have said, you don't have to wrestle with.
Yeah.
But we have the benefit of them to say that what we do, they won't have to wrestle with this.
Right.
They're not going to have to wrestle with Negroism. They're not. We're gonna get it. I know about David Horn. I see the look on your face. Hey, Baba, that's a challenge. I know, but they won't have to wrestle with it, only meaning that they will have an understanding of it and have a righteous choice. If I don't have a choice, then it becomes plausible.
Yeah.
But if I don't have if I understand what the choice is, then it ain't plausible. We're gonna make it clear what the universal African nationalism, the democratic government for 1 million teenagers in Philadelphia joined on Juneteenth to support the raising of a Negro flag saluting their enslavement. Understand that?
Yeah.
It saluted their enslavement.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility that in a year or two, they don't sign on to salute their enslavement. They recognize the red, the black, and the green as their nationalistic flag, because we say to them, we can build the nation on the continent of Africa.
Right.
And our sisters, our mamas, our partners actually lead the way.
Yeah.
They are not the weaker group. They technically have been the smarter group and have allowed us, because of the European influence, have an ego to say, okay, we got to do this and y'all got to follow. And they say, all right, brother, we're going to let you do that. But see, if you look at the UNIA, they said, okay, but not with Marcus Garvey himself, but in divisions. At some point, we'll do that with divisions across not just America, but across the world. Sisters did the work.
Yep.
And in recognizing that and having a respect for that, we can change how we view the sisters, the women of African descent, and therefore change how we view the next 100 years, because then the youth don't look and see themselves, male or female, of subjectable to a philosophy that subjects one group over the other. America's bias is blood deep. My sister queen, I toss it back to you.
No,
Actually, it goes to the next point, Baba. So I think one thing I just needed to make sure that I cleared up, I will put on the chat as well as on the stream chat some of the references that were used, so the persons can actually go and get, because some of the data you can get straight online. So I will make sure that those are put up, and I am very grateful to be to have the sisters that are here on this particular panel. I'm very honored, because it's not easy to live in the midst of chaos and terrorism and still uphold the race in this form. It's not, this is not for the weak heart. If you have a weak heart, this may not work for you, right? I'm just saying on a serious note. So it's very important that we honor that and give thanks.
No, don't stop, Dr. Chim. Bring Mary on.
Oh, give thanks. Oh, I'm honored. Okay, you got to get myself together. Yes, I am first It is my honor and privilege beyond measure to welcome, as we move forward on Garvey Lives, on this 81st anniversary of the ancestral transition of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, I'm honored to welcome our Secretary General of the Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League, RC 2020, the illustrious, the majestic, powerful beyond measure, and I'll say it, Her Excellency, Queen Grandmother Mary Bota.
Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
Thank you so much. It's just great listening to Garvey Yates. It's been wonderful. I started out listening to Brother Shaka's program this morning. He had a program, and there were several people on that we know, but I just want to pay respect to the office of the Secretary General. Sister Brenda
Ashe.
Dunn, my Assistant Secretary General, First Assistant, and Sister Margot Thomas, my Second Assistant Secretary General, and Sister Sewa Nkrumah, who was my Secretary General for 11 years totally, 8 years as Second Assistant, and 3 years as First Assistant. So, of course, Sister Sewa did more than just be a Secretary General. She's been a Second Assistant President General as well as Minister of Education. Minister of Transportation. And she's also been the High Chancellor under Brother Senghor Bae's administration, as well as currently the High Chancellor and the Executive Assistant to the President General, the Honorable Akili Nkrumah. So the two of us are going to do this, and I'm going to reference the works of Sister Brenda Dunn and Sister Margot. They will not be with us. The question, what elements have sustained and what elements will continue to sustain Garveyism? I can tell you what those elements are. Those are the principles written by the Honorable Marcus Garvey Jr. on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the Organization of African Unity. They asked him to write a chapter in their book, and he wrote that these were the principles. He summarized the aims and objects of the UNIA, written by, of course, his own beloved father. But these principles are: number one, African identity; number two, pride; number three, self-determination; number four, economic empowerment; number five, a love for our great motherland; number six, belief in a Black God; and number seven, science par excellence. And of course, he reminded us to never forget our God. Number one, African identity. If you don't have African identity, you will not love Africa. You will not work Africa. Africa will just be a place for you. It won't mean anything to you. You'll say, I'm of African descent, but that doesn't really mean anything. You won't really understand it. So you must have African identity in order to work for Africa. And number two, pride. We must be proud of ourselves as African people. But if we don't know our history, we will have nothing to be proud of. And this is why our young people don't have any pride, because they don't know their history. It's not only young people that don't know their history, old people don't know their history, which means they didn't teach their children anything. So I remember when I joined the UNIA, I was 35 years old. Janet had been trying to get me to join the UNIA or come to a meeting for about 2 years. I was too busy. But she knew I liked parties. So she told me about the party on the banquet on 63rd Street, where the Honorable Charles L. James was speaking. Well, I got there. I heard the word party. I didn't hear banquet. When Mr. James got up to the mic and started speaking, I realized how seriously miseducated I was. I didn't know anything that he was talking about. Nothing. So Janet didn't have to ask me to come to another meeting. I was at the next meeting. I paid my dues in full for the year. And I can count the meetings that I have missed since that time. If I miss a meeting, it's because I'm out of the country or in the hospital. So without further ado, I'm going on to Pride, and then Sister Sewa is going to talk to us about African self-determination. So I want to talk a little bit more about pride. See, our history doesn't start here in this country. You have been here, this country is about 244, 245 years old. Our country, our culture has been around for thousands of years. So why would I trade thousands of years for 244? Now, I know our people always say, you know, I served in the Army. My daddy served in the Army. My uncle served in Vietnam, or my cousin fought in the Iraq War. So because of that, this country owes me something. So this is my country. This is my country. And my beloved spouse told me, you watch your pronouns. You do not say my and our. And he always made sure I remembered, because he took a hanger with paper on it, and he painted it red, black, and green. And he put it on top of the television. So I said, baby, why you do that? He said, so you'll know they're not talking about you. He said, you'll always stay focused and mind your own business, and don't use the wrong pronouns. So he was deaf on that. And over the years, I learned to appreciate it even more. But I want to turn right now to Sister Sewa Nkrumah, who's going to share her experience as one of the educators in the Shule, Marcus Garvey Shule in Philadelphia. I think that went on for 24 years. She and Brother Sababu, PG Akili Nkrumah, they kept it going. It was an African-centered institution. That's different from these charter schools now. It was an African-centered institution. So Sister Sewa Nkrumah, please take that and speak about that for a little while. Thank you.
Okay, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Mary, I want to thank you so much for the nice remembrance, and also to my sister, Dr. Chenzara, thank you also for your remembrance. I look forward to seeing you both in Los Angeles in a couple of months.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Mary asked me to speak on education. Now, what was I going to say? Earlier in the program, it was asked by Brother Akili, and I think it was Dr. Horn, where are the Garveyites? And hopefully the Garveyites are educating our children. Let me just read these quotations from Garvey. The power to educate can be the power to subjugate, okay? Mm-hmm. Any race that depends on another race for survival sooner or later dies. Now, of course, the appropriate follow-up to that would be what our dear brother Malcolm said. We must stop looking to white people to do for us.
Exactly.
What we must unite and do for ourselves.
I say.
Right. Yeah. So, and one more thing, propaganda has done more to destroy the race of man than open warfare. Now, I did work with the Marcus Garvey Shule not as long as I would have liked, but I think to realize the importance of children being educated by their own, raised to anticipate their own needs,
Right.
Raised to know the atrocities that have befallen us
Yes.
in this United States and in the world.
Yes.
That most of us didn't know about Tulsa. There was another atrocity that happened, and I did not retain that, where a lot of us were killed. I think there was also, if somebody correct me, was it Rosewood? I believe that was the city in Florida.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Is that right? Okay. There are so many atrocities that befall us. So, it's important for children to know about these things. It's also important for them to know that when they get their education is good. Education is not the be all, the end all. Most people get educated and they want a good corporate job, but this nation doesn't care about that.
They don't.
What we should be caring about is addressing our needs as a people.
Yes.
I say.
Yeah. So that's the importance of education for our children. And I would hope that the Garveyites are teaching children the importance of growing up and responding to the needs of their own country. Because the way things are going in the United States of America, it's clear. They're taking away everything, their voting rights, they're taking away this and that. So we definitely have to do for ourselves.
God bless the child who's got it on.
Ooh, I say. Well, I don't know why you went all the way back there for that statement, Brother David Horn, but I say.
What did he say?
God bless his child that's got his own.
Yeah, right.
Mary Bolton?
Yes. Wow, that was powerful. Thank you, Sister Saywa.
You're welcome.
May I add something to that?
Hearing, and I've known you all this time, when the Shule was going on, and so much history about UNIA. And as I've said before, I'm gonna have to put it in writing, because when we type it up, we turn it off, and pass it out, it goes in the trash can after so long.
Man,
I can't we got our orders.
But I'd like to add something to the statement.
Yes.
You see, the Marcus Garvey Shule, and that's what you're talking about. And I'm gonna try to stay focused and potentially brief, but I can't guarantee that. At a moment when Division 121 in Philadelphia was at its worst peril, building on fire, they came and resided in the Marcus Garvey Shule of Positive Education. Why is that significant to me? So let me do just a brief historical rendezvous. We took the Marcus Garvey Shule under the leadership of Thomas W. Harvey into the UNIA 7 days a week. The building was alive. Thomas W. Harvey loved it. It was how I got beat up every day. I didn't realize that then when I was taking them lashes, but be that as it may. But it brought children into the building. It brought life. The Marcus Garvey Shule, to this day, students from it rebound in the world, and they respond when they see me as if it is a step back in history. Because they say, how in the hell did I see you and remember you? And I look at them and say, I see you and I don't remember you. Because they went from children to adults.
Right.
I couldn't become a different adult. But the magic of it is, as Saywa said it and Mary has said, Garveyism.
Yes.
Garveyism. Marcus Garvey Shule was our institution and was ours, not because it was the Nkrumah family, but it was ours because it was the UNIACL. Thomas W. Harvey saw to that. He made it a part of that. African people have to understand the value of education, but they also have to understand the commitment to 100 years.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because those two things connect. If you want to appreciate the women, I would be remiss if I did not remember and bring forth Sister Mama Karima Nkrumah.
That's
Right.
right.
I seen Nkrumah's wife.
Mhm.
As widow, yes.
She made no, she ain't no widow. Widow mean you without. I see him aren't with us physically, but he's with Mama Karima every day.
Every
Oh,
day.
okay.
That's
He's
right.
with me every day.
Okay.
I don't have a day without that energy.
Mhm.
And I bring that up because she went from the Marcus Garvey Shule to the Temple University
Mhm.
to become a master teacher whose daughter today, Malika Nkrumah, is second to the superintendent of the Philadelphia Public Schools. Don't tell me black nationalism don't rise.
It rises and it works.
Garveyism is the truth. And you
Yes.
know what's so interesting is I was on a meeting with her and they said, who gonna pass through? And I passed it to her. And she said the only reason he did that because he my uncle. Sometimes we invoke such memories. So when Mary says it needs to be documented, she's so right.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
She's so right.
Mhm.
There she is.
I took basketball to teach the Ingles Saba.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know. Y'all trying to figure that part out another time. And you say, what did teaching the Ingo Saba have to do with teaching Garveyism? It taught principles.
Mhm.
It taught race consciousness.
Mhm.
I taught race first. And then I elevated it to the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League 7 days a week. Not 5, not 6, but 7.
Mhm.
And that's what we have to do now.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Mary Bose. I didn't mean to interrupt you like that.
Oh,
I keep exercising that privilege of being President
well,
General.
why not? You are the President General. So that President General has that privilege. So I'm going to continue with our fourth principle, economic empowerment. And that principle, Sister Margot was scheduled to do, but she ended up having to spend time taking care of her sister, Sister Brenda, who is not doing so well right now. And she had
Don't
to
like
go
that.
over here. So she asked me to take, sit in and speak for her. And we have talked about it. Sister Brenda and I talked about economic empowerment. And I think those girls were blessed because both their parents were entrepreneurs. Both of them had their own business. And I remember Sister Brenda telling me when she was a little girl, her daddy took her to Illinois Service uh, Bank, where we've had our UNIA bank account for years, a black bank in Chicago on 87th Street and King Drive. And he made her and established a bank account because it was a black owned bank. And she said they always went to black owned restaurants. Her father was a barber, her mother was a beautician. So they had their own businesses. They understood black business and black empowerment. And I know you might remember Brother Senghor, the brother Webb Evans in Chicago, who died at 101 years old. He said he wrote a book, and we can get off how to get off the economic bottom. He said if we would just buy from each other, just do that 100% of the time, or as close to 100% as you could. Guess what? We would create many jobs because we would be buying from each other. And in Tulsa, they prove that. In Rosewood, they prove that. So they tell you and tell us that we're lazy. We don't want to work. Well, we know that's not true. We know that is not true because we have developed communities. We have created our own banks, our own credit unions. We've had our own theaters. We've had our own barbershops. We've had our own businesses and our own schools. And until integration came, almost every Black child went to a Black school taught by Black teachers. So they knew who they were, because every parent not only was a parent for her or her own child, but a parent was a parent for all the children in the block or
I
on the
say,
block. And
I
some,
say,
there was a time when if your mother was not around, if Miss So and so saw you doing something, you'd be hoping she forgot or
because
had a,
you knew she was gonna tell
because
too.
you were gonna get in trouble
Yeah, yeah.
when Mama got home, because she had permission not only to discipline you, but also when your mother got home, when your father got home, you were in trouble again. So that kind of community is no longer among us. We have children now who know you better not touch me. I'll tell my mother, and she'll as one little child told me, and I'll sue you. He couldn't even say sue. I sue you. This was a kindergartner. I sue you if you hit me. I sue you. So these children learn fast the words that are oppressive to us. So we have to teach our own children. And another thing I have said lately, I said to my daughter recently, we need to stop calling the police. Stop calling. Because when they come, what do? They kill us. They find an excuse to kill us. So we need to develop our own set of social workers, our ministers, our people, our psychologists, our militias, and and come together and organize a segment of the community that's dependable, that can be called on to solve our conflicts. Because we need to change our behavior. We keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We know that that's called insanity. But I want to share also a little story that Sister Brenda told me about her father. She said when she was a little girl, she was about 8 or 9 years old. Her birthday came, and she was expecting a nice, pretty birthday gift. She said her daddy gave her the book, Great Negroes Past and Present. And she says, who wants this book for a present? She wanted a gift that a child would want, a toy to play with. She said, but later on, she began to appreciate her father. And we know that economic empowerment means so much. It's not just getting a grant from business. What we need to do is be independent. I believe that those people who can write grants, now we tell people in the UNIA, don't bring that in the UNIA. If you do something and you're going to write a grant, don't associate it with the UNIA, because we are an independent government. And you write a grant, give yourself another name, write a grant, and then you can get what you need. But moving on to the fifth principle, which is love for the motherland, Africa. This is what I say. If you don't love your mother, who do you love? Who do you love? You don't love your mother, you love no one. You don't even love yourself. You don't love your mother, Mother Africa, you don't love anyone, because that's where you came from. Mr. James taught us you everything else by accident, but you're African by descent. So we have to make that connection and say, those people over there. When you go to Africa and you go as a tourist, they'll treat you like a tourist. They'll see, oh, you're American? Let me see how I can make some money off this American. And they'll do that. They can't wait to see you, because they know what you're going to do. You're going to spend too much money. You don't know the value of what you're getting, so they can cheat you. But guess what? When my husband and I went to Africa, he said, he went to the mic and he said, I'm glad to be home. And drinks came from everywhere. I guess he knew that ahead of time, because he was making sure he got those drinks, Those that came to me, he took those too, because he knew I didn't drink. So anyway, we had a great time. And we went to Nigeria and met Fela. And Fela had 26 wives. dancing on stage. And you could tell the American men from the African men, because the American men were looking at the women's behinds and see how they were dancing. And the African men were not looking at that at all. They weren't. And we just noticed them. They looked at the women and their praises, and they would stop at a certain point and give God the praise at certain points in their dances. So, you know, it was just a different experience. So Africa is important. Everybody should go to Africa at least once. Now that's what I used to think, but now I'm beginning to think something different. After Beirut speak at our executive council, he said, "It's okay for you Garveyites to be Garveyites, but it's nice to all Garveyites to have some money." That stuck. That stuck with me. I said, you know what? We're not taught here. We're not taught to have money. As my husband used to say, we were brought here to do the line. We weren't
Right.
brought here to be educated. We weren't brought here to be businessmen and businesswomen or teachers or any of that. We were brought here to do the line. That was
Right.
our place. So if you keep that in your mind and you just follow that little script, and we know the miseducation of the Negro, you just keep on doing what you're doing. You know the story of Carter G. Woodson. He said,
Yep.
his friend, he was looking for a job teaching one summer, and his friend went to work for his family business,
Right.
laundry. Now we don't even think anything about it. We got all kind of talent, but when it comes to us pooling our talents to create a business for ourselves, the family, as a community, we don't think about it, because I don't trust him. I don't trust her. I don't know what she's going to do. I don't know what he's going to do. So all these things get in the way of our success. So we need to start building strong families. As Phil Coran used to say, if the Black woman and the Black man don't get together, nothing else will happen. Nothing else will take place. The Black man and the Black woman must come together as a
You're
unit.
right.
As a unit.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And you know what? Mr. James and Miss James, they were a unit. They were always together. Even though Miss James didn't agree with Mr. James all the time, she gave him the respect. And she said, with all due respect, that she would state her opinion about what she thought about. She always spoke truth to power from her position, always, and she was never afraid to speak her mind. Never. And they were, you know, Mr. James had a personal secretary, but she told him, I'm not doing all this work. I'm not going to work all day and be a nurse and come home and be your secretary.
Which
You
one was that, Mary?
your own personal secretary. And
Mary,
he did.
which one was that?
Dorothy Robinson was one of them.
Okay.
You remember Dorothy?
Yeah.
He was his personal secretary.
Oh, I know. I just wondered which one you were talking about.
That's one. There were others, but
yeah,
Miss James was determined with what she needed to do, and so the unit is so important. The family is important, and
Dorothy was the young sister that was his personal secretary. I met her in Jamaica.
Well, you met Dorothy went to Jamaica.
I think that was his personal secretary.
Yes, yeah. She was the personal secretary.
Yeah, she was in Jamaica when he got installed in office. Yes. And I almost killed him.
Yes. 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 Okay, number 6, belief in a Black God. Now, you know, my family asked me to make a presentation, and I made the mistake of sharing with them the 7 principles of Garveyism, and everything was okay. But when I got to that belief in a Black God, all hell broke loose. The meeting just, oh yep. My God, there's no such thing as a Black God. How dare you? Are you still a Christian? Do you believe in? So, you know, I had to realize I gave them too much too soon. Yeah. It was too much. It's just like when you feeding a baby, you don't start a baby off with steak. You know, you gotta start them
Oh,
off with, you know,
wow.
real
Right.
fine little pieces. You gotta crush it up and mash it up and add some
Hamburger.
Now, I thought you
that's
started the baby off with mother's milk, and
right.
then
You
you
start
brought it
with mother's
forward.
milk.
But y'all done went to the steak and the hamburger. Okay,
Right. Well,
okay.
you can't give your child steak and hamburger. They'll choke on it. So when you give people something and they're not ready to do it, then whose fault is it? It's
Yeah.
like when we criticize people, when you give them a job and they're a boy and you gave them a man's job, guess what?
It's
He
your fault.
act like a boy. And then whose fault it is? If you the parent and you gave him a man's job and he's a boy, you didn't train him, you didn't teach him. But the battle used to say you're gonna keep getting more and more of what you don't give. If you don't
Right.
teach, you can't
Right.
expect to get blood from a turnip. If you people
Yeah,
just
more
join
what you
and
got.
we don't train them, we don't teach them. They get old, but you know what? As Nair Bodie used to say, so do pimps. They get old. He used to say that. And he said, only
Ah,
they get better at what they're doing.
okay,
So
okay, okay, okay.
if you want people to improve, you got to give them the lessons. You got to, as Brother Senghor said, and our Sister Jean Slappy used to say, you got
Ah,
to
my
put them to
queen.
work. Give them a job to do. Give them a
Yeah.
Yeah.
job that they can do. And then when they do it right, praise them, you know, and, you know, eventually build them up. But you don't just let people come in and sit down and do
Yep,
nothing.
that's
Because
right.
they'll just be a
Do
bench
nothing.
member, like that bench members in the church that go and join and don't do anything but go to church on Sunday. They don't
All
They
go
right.
to
go. They go
lessons,
and complain. They go and complain.
and they complain because they have nothing else to do but complain because they don't know anything. And if you're
Right.
working, you're gonna make mistakes.
Right.
But if you don't make any mistakes, that means you're not doing anything.
That's right.
You're
That's
not
right.
doing anything because you're gonna make some mistakes when you work. But then you get a chance to get them corrected. But the last principle is science par excellence. This is how we fell behind as a race. We were still fighting with spears. And guess what? That European had developed a gun. You know, firepower, the Chinese people, you know, they discovered the firepower. Guess what? When the Europeans saw it, they said, we can use that to destroy people. See, it all
Hmm.
depends on your mindset.
Yeah.
African people did not have a destructive mindset. They wanted to make beautiful things. They made beautiful things, beautiful
Right.
art. All
My
that was in their mind.
Say it
And
Yeah.
again. Say it
guess
again, brother
what?
David.
My
Why would they be afraid of white folks when they have run the world for thousands of years?
That's right. That's right.
Invited them in. And as John Henry Clark said, they didn't know they was gonna rape their daughters. And you know, we had no idea. See, when you are in power, you're not afraid of anything. We had
Right.
been in power so long we took it for granted. And then the white man came in, married the women and got in
Rape.
one way or
Rape
the
the
other,
women.
Rape the women.
raped the women,
Took
then
them in
got
bondage.
right. So once they found out, next thing you know, we had all the gold, we had all these things, we had built the pyramids, the Sphinx, we had built so many beautiful things. We had our own religion, our own science. And you think that the first airplane was done by uh uh was it the Wright brothers? That's not true. Airplanes we had produced, ballet we had produced, all kinds of arts and sciences we had produced, and we had our own civilization. But when
Right.
people came in contact with it, because it was so strange, they called it pagan. So
Right.
then they gave it a name. And another thing, my husband used to always say, "It's not what you call me; it's what I answer to." So when
There
you
you go.
call me
There you
something,
go.
I don't have to answer to that. I can go keep on being the way I am. Let me tell you a little story about my great grandmother. My grandmother. My grandmother was 8 or 9 years old This white man was on a horse, and he told her to take her clothes off and get in the bushes. She looked for a tree limb, and she ran him on his horse. When she got grown and my mother was born and my uncle was born and my auntie was born, he said, you know, Sue, you know, I've been liking you for a long time. We need to just get it on. You know, we need. So she said, you know what? You've been worrying me for a long time. She said, I'll keep my end of the bargain if you keep your end of the bargain. If you let my husband go with your wife, I'll go with you. He
I
left
love
her
it.
alone. My sister and I was up all night on the phone trying to figure out why did he leave her alone. You know why? She was a family woman. She was born 1893. But she was not afraid. She didn't know nothing about fear. And he didn't want her to teach any other Black people to think like that. So the best thing he figured he could do was leave her alone. So science, our technology, how many of us knew anything about, what was that picture we went to see, Hidden Figures? Was
Yeah.
it Hidden Figures?
Yeah.
We didn't know anything about that woman. What do they
All,
do with scientists?
all three of them. All three of them.
Yeah, all three of them. They put them somewhere, give them a good job, and then they hide the story. We know nothing about it. So we need to study our scientists, study our astronauts, and we need all kinds of power, according to Marcus Garvey. We need financial power, economic power, scientific power, people power,
Yep.
and of course, money power. We need to organize our billionaires and trillionaires and keep talking to them, like Garvey said, until we have convinced them the way of Garvey is. So this is what we're going to have to do. I have enjoyed this presentation. I'm enjoying more of what everybody else is saying. I hope everyone has learned something, but I stand on the shoulders of Alma Golden, Jean Slappy, Sister
James.
Yes, Estelle James, absolutely her, because I wouldn't know anything without her. And I think about the patience that she and Mr. James had. Because when I joined at 35, she could have said, you know, I'm done. They had already done about, what, 60 years apiece. Mr. James came into UNIA when he was 16. Miss James came into UNIA when she was 9. So
Wow.
they knew the UNIA back and forth. They could have said, you know what, we're retired. Sister Mary, you need to go somewhere else and learn something. But they took me under their arms, their wings, and they were patient with me. They went through all kinds
They
of
were
work.
Garveyites. They could not tell
They
you
were
that.
Garveyite, and they took care of me and let me make mistakes. And Janet forewarned them, said she's kind of bossy. She doesn't mean everything she say, but she'll get out of hand sometimes. So Janet kind of forewarned Mr. and Mrs. James, and Mr. James was just powerful, powerful and a very diplomatic person. I remember when I didn't vote for him, and when Larry Motley was running against him.
Oh boy.
And I thought Mr. James was being unfair because he didn't let him speak. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna stand up and voice my abstinence. I'm gonna say that I am abstaining. So guess what? I was put on trial for that when I got back to Chicago. I was put on trial. Mr. James didn't say a word. He let Brother Shaka, who was vice president, handle the trial. And I remember telling them, nobody tells me who to vote for. Nobody tells me who to make love to. I went off on all of them. And this old man got up and said, Sister Mary, our lady president, I was lady president at the time, that she's always here. She's always on time. We're going to end this trial right now. And they did. So I'll be forever grateful.
So Mama Mary, thank you for that excellent presentation.
Thank you.
I just want to hail up one ancestor that's very important, I know, to you and all of us, and to Baba Akili, because everybody has talked about education, and that's Baba Hannibal Afrique.
Afrique, yes, yes.
Yes.
Anyway, we're gonna move on to some pictures, and we're gonna get a PG a little time to look at some pictures. Him and I are gonna try to narrate, and then he's going to wrap us with the future of Garveyism. And if time permits and everybody's ready, we'll have a little open discussion, David.
Okay.
So if you're ready, Zama. And Mary, thank you so much. You and Dr. Chenzara and Sewa were off the hook. I mean,
Thank
just
you so much.
really grateful. I'm sorry, Z. Got to keep moving, man. Zama?
Name him.
I just what I'm telling you. I'm saying I'm sorry. I know, but I can't. I didn't come to me. Same thing. Belize. The name is escaping me, but he was a powerful brother who was a powerful Garveyite who we met down there. He's an ancestor now.
I think we know them.
Yeah.
That was in Senegal, though, y'all. That was when we was in Senegal.
I think we know most of the people in this picture too.
Yeah, Mama Jewel Mazik, though, is the one that is most important in the black. She wrote for Adam Clayton Powell and Malcolm X. She put African education in Howard University, for real. May Ferguson.
May Ferguson.
You can keep rolling, Z. Marcus Garvey Jr. Whoa. That's kind of hard.
Senghor is in
Kamal,
there.
Kamal Robinson. I'm trying
Yeah.
to call the folks people don't know, though.
But it really won't matter. What the point of the movie is to show that there is the UNIA and its development.
Now, that's a powerful one there. That's at 120.
That's Brother Maddox.
Yes.
Sister May Ferguson.
Garvey Jr.
Garvey Jr.
The saxophone.
That's Alma Golden. I got my glasses on. That's Alma Golden.
And her sister.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a powerful.
Yeah, that's woo.
That's another powerful one. There goes Wally Muju and his wife and Mama James.
Yeah, that's Wally Muju before he got old.
Brother Malik and Jackson Bay and myself. And this one is similar. Oh, that's AJ Carter.
Yeah.
Big AJ Carter out of Youngstown. And powerful brother, the tallest one. That's Dr. Ackland Lynch. He is here in DC. He is a giant and he's a Garveyite. He was a tight friend of Tony Martin's. That's Baba Rafo Karomako, one of the most powerful elders in DC. He's an ancestor now. He was also active in the UNIA. That's brother. That's him again and Dr. Jill Mazik,
Tony Martin.
Bay. And this was an award ceremony that we did that was powerful. And that's the other
boy we name we can't say.
No, I ain't.
I say we can't say it. I can't even pronounce it.
CLR James, not
yes, sir.
James. This is
CLR James, the historian.
Yeah, and Zama has tons of information on him. Ruth.
Is that Zama?
That's just Ruth Smith.
Oh, okay, I thought it might have. Okay.
Is that Zama?
Thomas W. Harvey.
I know it. I know you know who that is, Baba.
Hey,
like your twin. Baba.
That's Baba.
Kamusa Barash.
Yeah, yep. That's where I learned about the Black Church.
Oh, that sister that is kissing, get ready to kiss Brother Battle, was a very powerful sister.
Yeah.
Very powerful sister. And there he is. There he is. Y'all know who that is? That's talking to Brother Battle? That was one of our ambassadors. That's the one that took us through Senegal. Reverend Saunders.
Reverend Saunders, yeah.
Ambassador Reverend Saunders.
That's Estelle James. And you know what? That's not the Estelle James I met.
Now, while we on Estelle James, y'all, when she was in the hospital at her deathbed, she laid it on me, y'all. I'm telling you, one day I got to tell y'all how much she said to me about what we should be doing to protect the UNIA. I got to tell y'all that. I left there crying. I left at the hospital crying, man. That was powerful.
Oh, that's Sister Margot?
No, that's Brenda.
That's Brenda?
That's Brenda.
Oh,
Yeah.
snap, Sister Brenda. We got to keep Sister Brenda wrapped in our, oh, I know that's Narabota in our prayers. And Narabota, you got to look out for Sister Brenda. It's your job. Alma Golden.
Oh, who is that brother?
Wait a minute. I know that's
Alma
Alma.
Golden.
Alma Golden.
I know this, what's his name? That's James? No, just
James, yeah.
that's Mrs. James.
Right
It's
there.
amazing how time changed.
Yeah, that's Miss
Sadie
James.
Magazine, Mary Bolter, Dave Ferguson. I said Sadie Madison, Mace. That's Mr. Garvey Jr. No, Garvey, that's Julius.
Sadie, Mary.
Say what?
Garvey. Yeah,
Who's standing next to you, Single?
Tyree.
That's Tyree.
Tyree Molly.
Secretary General under Brother Battle.
Yeah, that's Hannibal there.
Here he come. Hold on to this for a while, Z. Hold this one. Hannibal Afrique, y'all. Hannibal Afrique, one of the most powerful educators I've ever met in my life. And he was active with the UNIA, the PGRNA, the National Black United Front, CB, et cetera, in Cobra. But he was consistent. And he was very, very powerful brother. In fact, I learned so much from Hannibal about Garveyism. It's incredible. Now, I want y'all to think who that is right there. That's a powerful sister right there. Two powerful sisters there. Oh my gosh, Sama. You know, I met this sister when she brought Tony Martin to Baltimore. She's a recent ancestor, and Mother Taylor. Mother Taylor is the queen of the Yorubas. Just powerful sister, y'all. That's all I can say. Both of them powerful. Melvin Deal. Oh, by the way, Tendai's mother transitioned, who is over on this side with Melvin Deal. She transitioned at 110.
Oh my
just the other day.
I thought Baba Mosey's tribute was excellent because he said she had reached a milestone.
Wow.
I know there's Sister Ania, Sister Fofier, the young sister in the front,
Mona Tariq.
There's our other sister to the right,
and Jerry.
And Jerry, and the sister in back of him, Jerry. Okay, the other one, other sister I ain't gonna name.
I'm gonna put the names up there.
No, it said unnamed. That's Queen Mother.
Queen Mother Myers.
That's Queen Mother Myers.
Who's that when you with, Bob?
I don't know.
Oh my goodness, two other griots, giants. Now that sister worked with Kwame Ture forever.
Yeah.
She taught many different people, and that brother was a griot that been around a long time, and you know they're just powerful people, y'all. And they're in the whirlwind. I guarantee y'all.
All right, Simon, what you want us to do with this picture?
Figure that one out, bro. What's that? Red, black, and green, right?
That's all I got.
Nah.
There's Mona.
Brother and a sister.
I know that too, but I don't have nothing else. Okay. At least I'm assuming it's a brother and a sister.
That's Zama's hand.
Zama's holding somebody else's hand?
And taking the picture too, eh?
Well, you do amazing things.
Mona Cherie.
Mona Cherie.
On the altar. Oh, that Pepe. Ambassador Pepe with us.
Yeah, I remember doing radio programs with Pepe. I like to see that again. That's Sister Ania on the keyboard.
Yes.
Oh, Mama Jeanette Carson.
Yeah, I know.
Jeanette Carson did Black Collectibles many, many years. Very powerful. Yeah. She's still here with us. Oh, Precise Science.
Precise Science. Which one of them is transitioned, Senghor?
Rough Mike with the ankh on his head. Rough Mike.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. My brother Haru is still living. Rough Mike.
We got to get, that's Marcus Garvey Jr. Marcus Garvey. Some say Junior. I ain't trying to go through all those names.
That's a real powerful shot. That's a powerful one there.
Yeah, we'll worry. At West Philly?
178.
Yeah, West Philly.
Yeah, that's 178. Most 178 members.
Yeah, that's 1 Philly. Except for that bald head brother in the middle.
Yeah, he was 121. Ooh,
yeah.
Oh, who is that we standing with, y'all? Come on.
David Horn.
No, I'm talking about who is that you, me, and David standing with. Come on, y'all. Come on. Y'all ain't got it?
That's the brother at the art gallery. Had the art gallery.
Yeah, it was an art gallery we were in.
That's it, David.
David, that's on your end, David.
I don't remember his name.
Yeah, but you took us there, David.
Yeah, okay. I did.
Yes,
But I don't
And
remember
he
his
don't
name.
remember because he got on that Raiders jersey.
Oh, now we know who he is. And by the way, we're gonna be with him. Hopefully, he's gonna be able to
He's in very, very bad shape.
I heard.
Oh, wow. Are
Very
we
bad
able to
shape.
visit him?
Maybe for a few minutes.
See if we can do that.
David, there go you with we got Melfoot sandwich. He just try to feed his mouth. We got him sandwich.
And he was trying to tell y'all, move on. It's not important.
Oh, powerful people.
Yes. Who's that sister in the blue?
Who was that sister? Was that Salim Hilton, Paula? Oh my goodness, Ivy Hilton, and that is a powerful sister in the blue. We got to recruit her.
Who is she?
I think that. That looked like Dr. Chisholm.
That's who I thought.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh wow, that brother, AST PerAnkh out of California.
Yeah.
Came from this end, but
Didon, yeah.
Didon.
That's we miss him.
Yeah,
miss
man.
him.
I know you do, man. He was a powerful brother, man. He was a good
Yeah.
brother, a very good
Yeah.
brother.
We had him for a long time, David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I seen him in Chroma.
Yes. I see.
There's never been any man or woman more Garveyite than that brother,
Dr. Horn.
Dr. David Horn. I see him in Chroma to this day. Sadie Madison. Hey, Zama, we got to talk about
Dr.
how you put these pictures.
Ambassador of Azania with us. Dr.
Yes.
Nana Sadie, very powerful sister.
Yeah.
Y'all. She's in the ancestral realm. Oh, that sister Anubia Kai is powerful sister too. She writes on a lot of things. She's a powerful sister. She's
Out of Detroit.
Johnny Gossett.
Johnny
Gossett, the leather man.
Not only a leather man, fought us tooth and nail just to keep the UNIA alive.
Again, Patricia Newton, Dr. Patricia Newton.
Yeah.
Now y'all know y'all gonna have to get back to finishing our discourse.
Yeah, I think that's on me.
Almost over.
Yeah, we are, David. We get ready to finish.
Okay, Chinua Achebe.
Yes. Oh boy, y'all know who that is. I know that's Finch.
Yeah, Dr. Finch.
Haru. I ain't speaking about the others. The brother Haru. Oh,
Conrad.
Ambassador Conrad Borrell, Ambassador of Reparations. Ania. Baba Akili, PG.
That's in California.
Oh, I'm in touch with him.
That was in Detroit.
Detroit?
Brother Twigs out of Azania, South Africa. He's back there now, and I'm in communication with him.
Narrabota.
There you go, Mary. And then is that Queen Olive? That's Queen Olive. That's
Queen Olive, yes.
Marcus Garvey's niece.
Right, exactly.
Oh, Zama, you got to hold on this one, brother. In the middle.
That's Brother Jackson.
Leroy
in
Jackson,
the middle.
Sadie Madison's uncle, who was a legionnaire to the max, and he marched in the the parade that we did in 1992, and he's flanked
and Reginald Maddox and Marcus Garvey Jr.
That's when Marcus Garvey Jr. got elected President General, by the way.
Yes, that was in
92. 92. Dr.
David Horn.
I was Atlanta.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
When the first Sierra Leonean jackanate from Hollywood.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm not gonna go there.
Yeah. Okay.
We live. Marcus Garvey Jr. Oh, Zama, you got to tell him her name, man. That's
Decima Williams. She was the master of Grenada.
Yeah.
Powerful sister. She's healed now.
Y'all know who that is out of Philadelphia. I know y'all know who that is.
Sonia Sanchez.
Sonia Sanchez.
There you go. Oh, Laini.
448? No?
Laini Mataka.
Okay.
Powerful poet. She's cutting edge poet.
Narrabota.
Narrabota.
Ron Vine Simple.
And y'all know they still are pushing all of his stuff as if it's really Garvey.
Yeah.
I forget the sister's name, but she's
Out
powerful.
of Jamaica, but she lives in Atlanta.
Yeah, powerful sister. I know. I forgot her name. Jackson
Bay and Reginald Maddox.
That's Baba Keys. That's Baba Keys in the back. In the back,
yeah.
that's Baba Keys.
I was in Delaware.
National organizer. Damn.
They're the sisters.
Yeah.
Alma Gold.
The two sisters.
Yeah.
Who's the young sister in the back? I can't remember her name.
Baba Zulu and Francis.
Yeah, right there.
And Dr. Weldon.
Okay.
I don't know who that sister is in the back. So that's Baba Zulu. There's Garvey Jr. at the podium.
Yep.
That's just the color of the one you saw.
Yeah, but that's a powerful one. Hassanatu and them.
Well, that's Mary Bolter.
That's me. Yep.
Now, this is an interesting photo here. We were in Florida, right, Zama?
Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, the sister in the middle gave us that award.
Mm-hmm.
Battle always smiles when they're around the sisters.
Yeah, but
he's supposed to at that age.
Karen and her assistant as Black Cross nurses, and in Zinga, who, she's there now. She's back in Belize. That is Ambrose Lane Sr., a legend down here in the DC area. All right, that's a powerful one there. Mae Ferguson with Marcus Garvey Jr. and Brother Battle. There's another powerful one, Sewa, Sadie, Marcus Garvey Jr., and Mary Bowtie.
We were all Secretary Generals.
Johnny Gossett looking at the fire.
As a building 1609, 1621 seats or more, that was set by, that's Gene Slappy, that was set by one of those portable heating units that was left standing and got knocked over.
Brother Battle.
That's Mr. Battle and Single in the back. And then he charged him and Mr. Gossett with the fire.
They did what?
Keep going.
Look, everybody needs to everybody needs to understand. Let me say this, Senghor. There are a lot of people who have books out, purporting to be the portrait, the authentic portrait of the history of Garvey and the Garvey movement.
And we have to tell it.
Yeah, go back one slide. That's the man whose books you need to be reading. Tony Martin is the definitive Garveyite scholar.
The Garveyite Trinidadian cool ruler. That's
right. His book, his very first book, Race First, which was read hardback, we sold at $121. I had the opportunity to negotiate with the international organizer under the direction and guide of Thomas W. Harvey, the sale price, what profits would be shared, and how the book would handle, and we did the very first book sale of Race First.
I'll make this the last slide so we can move forward. That's Muda Baruka, Kamal Robinson, and oh my goodness.
Wow, can't leave the sister out.
That's the first queen of the Ansar king.
And that can be your last slide.
Yeah, here in DC.
Mary Bolter can be the last slide. He ain't gonna stop till you're ready anyway.
Yeah. Queen Mother Moore and Alma Golden. That was in New York. Nana Sashavi. All queens of the Garvey movement. Ruth Smith and several others.
Zama, you repeating now.
Hannibal Afrique.
No, that one wasn't strong, David.
No, this one's Hannibal Afrique. Dr. Nana Sashavi and Zama's youngest son. Mary Bolter. Yeah, Zama, we need to probably stop. That's, Kwame Afo. We have to catch back up.
Yeah, you've done these.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have.
There's some of the same people, but it's not the same pictures because that's when I sent him.
Okay.
Whoa. Yeah,
we do need to stop.
yes, because no, go back, Z. Go back, Zama. Please go back.
That's Kwame Nkrumah's daughter.
That's right. And also one
and,
Africa, Mama of one.
Right.
Yeah, and that's in Ghana.
Right.
Dr. Chinzara with them.
Yes. We were on that trip.
We can deal with the future of Garveyism. I want to say that everybody has been excellent. This is a very serious learning experience and a teaching tool. The Honor Society has once again scored with the UNIA RC 2020 government of the UNIACL. Without any further ado, our President General, Baba Akili Nkrumah.
Sante Sana, my first assistant president, General Singo Baye, and to the committee of the parent body, as well as to the Institute, the Marcus Garvey Honor Society. So thank you, Brother David Horn. The future of Garveyism is within our hands, and it is possible at this point to take it to a level to where it is no longer obscure conversation, but a reality. As people move to put a bust of Marcus Garvey in the African Union, and we work to build the statue of Marcus Garvey alongside other greats on the continent of Africa, we have to begin and insist on the conversation of the value, the purpose, the meaning, and the contributions of the Universal Negro Improvement Association led by the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and the men and women that supported him, as well as the men that came behind him, even in their differences. We can't discard them because they differed from. Because in essence, they were still trying to promote the Universal Negro Improvement Association's African Communities League philosophy, which was established by Marcus Garvey. They may have disagreed with him, but they still pushed it. We have to push and accept and acknowledge all other entities that claim Marcus Garvey.
Yep.
Because see, then we can hold you accountable to the words, works, and deeds of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. If you claim Garvey and your deeds don't speak to Garvey, we can hold you accountable.
Right.
We can point out those differences, and at that time, we are not being disagreeable.
Right.
If you are an entity that exploits people of African descent, that's anti-Garvey, we can point that out. That is not being disagreeable, that's being factual.
Mm-hmm.
If you support a government that oppresses people of African descent, we can point that out. That's not anti-Garvey, that's not lack of unity. What we are committed to do in the UNIA ACLRC 2020 is to put forth and move forward the platforms of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey to ensure the UNIA ACL is a part of establishing the democratic government for African people on the continent of Africa. You know, people are going to be confused about that. I'm going to try to say it simpler. I'm not trying to build a government on every land base in the world. Ain't what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to build an African government in America. Ain't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I want to build the African government on the continent of Africa where we not only are the majority, but we are the base of power. Understand? See, I want to make sure that the Negro in America has a government that speaks for him in the world.
Right.
If I may.
Mm-hmm.
China, who is considered an American enemy, when the Chinese in America start saying, oh, we are suffering Chinese attack because of the coronavirus, America stepped up, and I've seen more commercials talking about save and not attack the Asian than I have seen about George Floyd. Okay?
Mhm.
And that's because there is a government for Asian people called China
Exactly.
that America got to reckon with. Garvey said to us, build our own government.
Mhm.
Now, for those of us who want to remain in America, fine. I ain't gonna fault you because you believe this is the land of honey and bees. I know it's another terminology, but this one works for me. See, honey, you think it's the sweet side. I can be an athlete. I can make more money. B is the reality side. You can be murdered on the street by a police officer just because of the color of your skin and murdered in your own bed. Sister Brianna,
Mhm. Yes.
because of the color of your skin, and there's no regard for your life. I say, as Garvey has said, and Mr. Harvey has taught me, and Mr. James have also insulated it. When a government speaks for us, police brutality will change because then there is a power that will equal the power of oppression.
Mhm.
Here in America, it was brought up earlier that the UNIA was in existence with Tulsa. We was in existence before Tulsa happened. We was in existence supporting the development of African people on American continent, dealing with the economic reality in order to support the development of an African government on the African continent. Where we failed was recognizing that white people would do with anything and everything possible to prevent that.
Mhm.
We have not failed in that knowledge this time around. You see, we thought electing Joe Biden was going to change shit. That need black people to get the lesson. You elected a different white man, but other white men who believe in the oppression of you have done everything they could to ensure the fact that you can't help them make a change. That's because change is not in their ballpark.
Mhm.
What they want is a white America. It's what
Mhm.
they've always wanted was a white America.
Mhm.
You know, they left Britain to establish another white nation.
Exactly.
And then they invited whites from all around the world to come and help build a white nation. And every white group that came, they treated like less than.
Mhm.
So how do we expect to be treated as equal when we were slaves and the Constitution says we were 3/5 of a man? Now, I got to speak to this.
Mhm.
Don't buy the hype that white people are telling you that, oh, we called you 3/5 of a man so that you couldn't impact the voting rolls. We were slaves. We couldn't frickin' vote. We were slaves. We couldn't even speak. And for those Negroes who want to salute the Juneteenth flag, I respect Juneteenth because of the men and women of African descent that gave their lives to make a change.
Mhm.
But Juneteenth didn't free nobody.
Mhm.
And the reason it took 2 years is because white folks had to had to win the war against other white folks. But if any of you really want to understand, read the book Forced into Honor. Forced into being a hero was Abraham Lincoln. Because what you don't say is Abraham Lincoln said, you can keep your Negro slaves as long as you stop the war against the Union. Hello? We don't have those conversations. You say, Baba Kelly, where you going? History is a clear platform for us to move forward. The Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and those men and women that work with him put forth an honorable platform. They didn't ask us to hate nobody. They asked us to do for self. They asked us to build our own government to do for self. They ask us to create science par excellence to do for self. We created science to do for them. Create science to do for us. The coronavirus 19, we, people of African descent, helped create the vaccine that they promoted, but they never once said, this black sister helped make this vaccine. This black doctor helped make that vaccine. Because then white folks would have had a real problem with taking the vaccine. We probably would have been eager to go because we had somebody black connected to it. And now
they put it out now.
That's what I'm going to say. And now, because you haven't rallied to the flag and got the vaccine, they're starting to tell you, well, see, black people helped bring that about. You may ask, where am I going? As we honor and salute the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey for all he gave to us, I need us to understand our role and responsibility going forward. We have to raise the conscious level of African people. We have to be that instrument that when all other instruments like us fail, we stand strong. Thomas W. Harvey, who led the first rehabilitating committee from 1948, I think it was, until 1950. Then he became that person in 52 again. Made sure that we were here to keep moving forward. All of you have joined with me to move us forward because we see the same problems in the destruction of the UNIA by the same egotistical, I got to be polite because we're being recorded, but the same egotistical energy that Garvey saw. Don't think that in 1926 it was peace in the UNIA. It was not. Don't think in 27 and 28 there was peace in the UNIA. There was not. There was the UNIA Inc. There was the UNIA ACL, and then came the UNIA ACL restructured. We call it rehabilitating committee. I think he called it reorganized UNIA 1929 of the world. So come on, people. We in 2020 saw the destruction of the UNIA. I'm going to tell it like it is. We said no. Garvey's mission, Garvey's actions, Garvey's entity could not fail him and could not fail those men and women that we have learned and loved and learned from, and it's now our job to teach. RC 2020 is the mechanism for that road. It is our responsibility and our duty to move the UNIA ACL into position to contribute to developing the government for African people on the continent of Africa. I am not trying to build a state government in Pennsylvania, DC, California. I don't give two craps about that. I care about how those people react to us, but I care that we become a voice that can speak for us, and we raise the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League to a level that all governments recognize us. And we make the contribution to developing and freeing Africa. Africa has a road to travel. We become a part of the road and the high-rise towers and the technology that makes African people on the continent of Africa live at the level that we should live in this world with the knowledge that we have. We bring knowledge and we bring commitment. And as the UNIA ACLRC 2020, we will work with the African Union. We will work with any entity and organization that is working on behalf of the race. But I say, if you ain't about race business, I ain't about your business. And you can be mad at me if you want to. But while I lead this entity, we will be about race business. We will about making change. We will acknowledge our sister queens, and we promote African women rise, because as African women rise, so does the race. They don't rise because of us, the male entity, they rise because of them. As the story goes historically, Jehudi was confusion, Ma'at was calm and understanding. So in the spirit of Ma'at and of the principles, I say to you, the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities RC 2020, one God, one
God,
aim,
one aim,
and one destiny.
and one destiny.
Yes, sir.
Race first.